Hello, lovely friend. I am Dr. Mary Barson.
And I'm Dr. Lucy Burns.
And this is the Real Health and Weight Loss Podcast.
Hello, lovelies. We are super excited to be bringing you this series in menopause where we're interviewing guests on their expert subject regarding perimenopause, menopause and beyond. As always, any information in this podcast is just considered general advice, and we would urge you to seek medical attention if you have any concerns about your health. If you're interested in exploring the symptoms of menopause or perimenopause, we have a checklist which you can download at our website, rlmedicine.com/checklist, or as always, you can click the link in the show notes. Thanks, lovelies. Enjoy this series. Good morning, gorgeous listeners. How are you this morning? It is a beautiful day in Melbourne, and I hope it's a lovely wherever you are in the world, whether it's beautiful sunshine or maybe some snow if you're a ski bunny, who knows. But this morning, I am joined as part of our Menopause series by one of our guest experts. Her name is Dr. Ivana, and like me, she's a lifestyle medicine physician, passionate about lifestyle options for women and just giving, I guess, women all the options, all cards are on the table. She has a special interest in psychological medicine, so we're going to be talking about that today. Welcome to the podcast, Ivana.
Hi, Lucy. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you are welcome, gorgeous woman. One of the things that I have been so impressed about is, again, your approach to helping women with menopausal symptoms, particularly in the fact that it's offering them a skill set that they may not have had. And that's basically what we're going to be talking about today. One of the things I always like to start with, though, and again, I have said this a few times, but I love to repeat it on the podcast because people get confused. Menopause, post-menopause, premenopause, perimenopause. What are all the pauses?
Big M word, isn't it? Yes. So perimenopause is, I would say, everything that's happening to us when we start transitioning from quite fairly regular cycling, menstrual cycling, when we start transitioning towards our last menstrual period. So it can be anything from 1 to 10 years, and it's very individually different for every woman. Menopause is literally your last menstrual period. So that's the day in your life when is your last menstrual period, and after that you don't menstruate anymore, which for some women can be tragic. For some women it can be quite a celebrative event. So it's also very different for every single woman. And post-menopause is basically everything that's happening after that in life. And for most of us, sorry, it's actually another 30 to 40 years, which is a big chunk of life. So we really want to have a good quality life. And that's why I'm so really passionate about menopausal health, because I think we all want to live a good life for 30, 40 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because when we talk about teenagers or kids going through puberty, and we know that that's a very, time of upheaval in their life, and everyone will go, oh, puberty, and there's, some kind of gnashing of teeth of the parents as they navigate that life with their children who are, hormonal and all over the place and happy one day and crying the next. And all of that's wildly accepted. And nobody talks about that as, well, we're starting to, but nobody did talk about that as the same. It's like the same thing in reverse.
It's amazing.
For peri.
It's totally amazing. It's a mirror image of puberty. But it's really amazing how nowadays, in the last so many generations, we are really holding our teenagers, and we are very aware of fragility of that stage. But no one is really holding perimenopausal women. They are so dismissed most of the time, and they are lost in that process and very often ashamed. So I think it's really great that we are starting these conversations in a public space, because that's actually creating that safe space for this transition.
Oh, absolutely. And what I'm hoping over time is that the stigma of you know, and the way that people weaponize it, as in, oh my God, they're so hormonal, or when women are told you're just hormonal, and it's like, well, hang on, just hormonal, like it's nothing. Just hormonal is everything. Like just hormonal is actually the reason. Yes, I am just. It's not the just. I am hormonal. I've got hormones that are wildly fluctuating, giving me physiological symptoms that are outside of my control. You know, at its very basic function, and it's weird. It's just weird that it's used to denigrate us.
Easily dismissed, I would say. Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, Ivana, you run a menopause clinic in your general practice?
Yes, I do.
Yes, tell us a bit about that.
I run menopause clinic, which is not really standard GP clinic, but it's a menopausal health GP clinic. It's different because it takes 1 hour. The consultations are 1 hour long, and I really try to give some space and time to explore together with my patient their life journey, their physiology, their psychology, their life circumstances, and then we together make a plan how we can move forward depending on their symptoms and also depending on their other health conditions and health risks. So that's one modality that I offer, but recently I started offering something called CBT group 6 weeks course for perimenopausal women, which I really think it's a great space to address this perimenopausal transition even more comprehensive and better, because over the 6 weeks course, we can actually explore this interconnection between our cognition, our brain, our thinking, our logic, our emotions, and our body sensations. And that's what basically CBT is. It's basically connection between thoughts, body sensations, and emotions. Very often we walk through our lives not knowing that there is a big interplay constantly happening in our body between these three modalities of our humanity. So during during this 6 weeks course, we meet for 90 minutes each Saturday in the clinic, and we talk together about this fragile stage of our life, how it can represent, what we can do about that, how we can actually connect, understand these parts of ourselves, and how we can do something to change the course of our life for better rather than for worse.
Oh, it sounds wonderful.
So that's the CBT part. And I also do online health coaching / therapy, which is basically one-on-one talking to my patients, how they can actually change the lifestyle, how they can change the way they live their life, how they can understand better, again, to live healthier lives after the last menstrual period.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting because we often talk about how there'll be sentinel moments in a woman's life where they sort of take notice of what's going on. And you know, in particular, I think one of the biggest ones is always pregnancy. You know, women that are planning a pregnancy and then become pregnant spend a lot of time making sure they're looking after themselves. They eat well. They do specific pregnancy-related exercises and all of those things. That, you know, if they were smoking, they stop smoking. Most women stop drinking. There's a lot of care that goes on to looking after yourself in that. And pregnancy is a transition state as well. And I think that we need to start the conversation around menopause having the similar level of care and attention that it needs. That this is a significant component, part of your life where there, you know, yes, like pregnancy, lots of hormones, but that there's lots of things that you can do about it, and you don't need to be. You know, sometimes I think people feel like they're just You know those little daisies, like those thin, what are they called? Japanese windflowers they are. And they're these tall flowers. They're very lovely, but they're at the mercy of the wind. They just have to move whether the wind decides to blow hard or not blow hard that day. They've got no sort of autonomy. And we don't have to be like that. Like, yes, menopause can be like the wind and it'll come along and it might blow hard for some women, much harder for other women, but we don't have to just take it.
Absolutely. And it's all about being flexible in that approach, understanding what can I change and what I cannot change. So how can I adapt to that?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. What is in my control and outside of my control?
For example, my
great.
physiology that I'm going through this normal, natural transition of my life is something that I can't reverse or change. I can't change my genetic makeup, how, with what genes I'm born in this world. I can't change the upbringing that I had when I was little. But I can understand how that can influence my life now and for the future, and what things I can do now in everyday life to actually turn all these things to work for me, not against me.
Indeed. In fact, we have a little saying, and I often have to caveat because sometimes people feel a bit triggered by it. But, and again, this is looking at, say, metabolic health and weight gain, that being overweight is not your fault, but it is your responsibility. And there's lots of reasons. And people will go, oh, no, it is my fault because I ate all the food or I ate all the junk or whatever. And I always go, no, we've got to look at why you did that. And that is a combination of so many things of family circumstances, of modeling, of trauma, of all the things. And then genetics. I think the thing that we need to recognize as women is that people have different symptoms. 20% of women cruise through menopause with no symptoms.
Lucky them.
Huzzah for them. Yeah, lucky. And which means 80% of women will have some symptoms, and for some women, they're extreme.
You know what, Lucy? I've heard that statistics many times, and it made me wonder, when the statistic was made, because what I think is happening, if we just move from that data to something else, that actually in the Western world, more women are actually suffering from perimenopausal transition than in some other parts of the world, like Asia. So then I'm thinking these statistics about 20% of women not having any symptoms cruising through perimenopause. When was statistic made? Because the world is changing, the world is faster, there is more stress, there is less community support, there is more issues happening and more burden on a woman as a carrier of the family life. So I think if we start doing this statistical research now, I'm just betting that the numbers would go from 20% cruising down to maybe 5% cruising.
Indeed, that could well be. You may well be
right.
right.
It's my theory. It's nothing
interesting,
proven,
isn't it?
But it's totally just the way of thinking,
Well, I guess if we often talk about a concept called the metabolic triad, which is insulin, cortisol, and estrogen. So we know that those three hormones are intrinsically linked. So we know in menopause, estrogen will go down, which means insulin will rise and potentially cortisol will rise. But it's sort of a side issue here is that we know that, again, I don't have any studies to quote on this, but women's role in 2024 is vastly different to women's roles in the 1950s, for example. And yes, women, did work at home, and again, it's easy to reflect and kind of make up stories. But my thoughts are that their attention wasn't quite as divided as it is now. Now you've got women who seem to be responsible, obviously, for children, and if they have children, raising children. They're teenagers by the time the woman is going through menopause, because we're often having our kids later.
That's true.
Compared to the 50s, where people had their kids in the 20s. Their parents are now older, so they've got aging parents to care for as well. And on top of that, they're back in the workforce. And for some women, they're just hitting their strides in their career, finally having had a big break from kids and all of that sort of stuff. So they've got all of that. Plus, they've still got mouthwash a lot, the pet poo, the shopping, the bills, all of those sort of just mundane tasks that never seem to stop. So I think that there's a lot going on then that will elevate a person's cortisol
Absolutely.
levels.
I'm burning to add to that list that you just started, the aging parents, the financial uncertainty, the increasing fear about the future of the world and the planet, the increasing workload and work demands, the increasing influence of social media, which could be great, but also can put lots of pressure on us to compare and strive to be better, to be younger, to look better. So the list is endless. That's actually burdening nowadays women in their 40s
absolutely.
and 50s.
Yeah. And so you're right. And so then when we have that increased cortisol, again, all the triad, it increases insulin, further decreases estrogen. So this interplay between those three hormones means that the good news in some ways is that we can look at, well, what can we do with each one? So how can we naturally just improve our cortisol levels so that we're not constantly on high alert? And I guess this is where you come in, Ivana, with your wonderful work.
I think you do the same, Lucy, with your wonderful work. We are all trying to actually help women to understand what's going on. And that's not their fault, as you said, that sometimes they start feeling, am I going crazy? Or am I going through menopause and perimenopause? What we can do is really to review our lifestyle. I think the first thing we need to understand as a woman in our 40s and 50s is that we need to pause. We first need to pause and review and then reflect and regroup. So I have like a little 3-step process in my mind when I'm talking to my patients. It's pause, review, regroup. Because
I love that. Pause, review, regroup. Yes.
Very often we are actually hit by this physiological hormonal transition when we are at the peak of our finishing running race, when we are in a full speed, when we are doing everything and we can do everything and we actually feel quite sufficient and capable of doing everything. But then this hormonal surge just slumps us and we start having all sorts of different symptoms, body aches, insomnia, anxiety, pains. Hot flashes are very, very small part of the whole story. And lots of women don't have hot flashes. Not every woman have hot flashes. But other body symptoms, gut changes, constipation, diarrhea, intolerances to certain food. And then lots of women get lost in that whole jungle of new symptoms and they're in full speed. And then they start searching. Of course, we all search on Google. We jump on computer and search what's going on. And then we can find lots of informations. And some of the informations are really even most misleading and confusing, which contribute to that sensation of disorientation that lots of my patients actually feel when I see them and meet them first time in the clinic.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right. I mean, there's this industry being formed around menopause now. And, commercial entities see a market that they can exploit. And so, there's powders and potions popping up everywhere with menopause slapped on them, and suddenly they can charge 3 times the amount and make claims that this will help your menopause. And look, just some things, some women will lay claim to something. And again, I'm all for that. If whatever you're doing makes you feel better, then all power to you. What I dislike is when companies, though, lay claim to evidence that doesn't exist. And so what I love with your CBT is that it is evidence-based. There are things that women can do outside of MHT or HRT. Again, for those of you who have listened, you know that I'm agnostic when it comes to MHT. If it works for you,
Absolutely.
wonderful. I'm all for it. If you can't take it because you've had estrogen receptor positive breast cancer, or you don't want to take it, or it didn't agree with you, then fine, we will work around it. It's kind of like with or without, we can make a difference. So I love that the CBT work that you're doing is evidence-based and has been proven within clinical trials to help, rather than just be some new age fandangle.
Exactly. It does help, and what's the beauty of that is that actually empowers the person, because you are learning certain skills that you can use to help you live better life, to harness not only these perimenopausal symptoms, but it's actually increasing your emotional awareness, your emotional granularity, your emotional language. You are actually growing as a person. So you can take these skills for the rest of your life, for everything in your life, for all other difficult emotions that you might have as a human being living on the planet Earth. And handle them better, because no one taught us, when our generation and younger generation, women in their 40s and 50s, no one taught us in primary school or secondary school about emotional intelligence and mindfulness and importance of understanding our internal world, our psychology, our psychology. So these all skills are packed in a small course that can actually give you these tools that then you can develop further and do a lot with them to live better life.
Yes, I totally love that. And you're absolutely right. I mean, these days, again, kids have so much, when we grew up, it was children should be seen and not heard. So you weren't allowed to express yourself. If you did, you were being naughty.
Especially female kids. Sorry.
Yes. Yeah.
Girls are nice.
Yeah, and
girls are supposed to be nice and quiet and to please and help other people. And boys will be boys.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes. Although, no, absolutely true. But I would also argue, though, that boys were taught to repress their emotions, because big boys don't cry.
Absolutely.
So they were told, don't show vulnerability, just, stiff up a lip, be strong, stop being weak. So they've got that narrative running through their mind. And we've got the be a good girl, be quiet, don't be difficult, just go with the flow, all of that. So we've got the people pleasing. They've got emotional repression. We're people pleasers. Wow, what a great combo.
That's why the world is in the state that it's now, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's great to know, though, that there are skills that women can learn. And this is, I think, one of the big things around stress management is that it's a skill. It's just a skill shortage. If people think that stress management means the absence of external stressors, and I will have people who go to me, but Lucy, what can I do? I can't get rid of my kids. I've got old parents. I can't get rid of them. I have to work. We need the money. There's nothing I can do. And it's like, you're being the Japanese windflower here. There's lots that you can do.
Absolutely. And it takes time. Yeah. It's not something you can do in 15 minutes consultation. It's not something that you can do even in 1 hour consultation. It takes time.
Yes. Yeah. So what I love then with your 6-week program, it's not in 6 weeks, we can fix you. It's a 6-week learning program. Like, you're learning the skills that you will then take into your life forever.
And empowering you to actually go inside and find all these capacities that you always had, but forgotten to have.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I love the empowering word, because I know people, again, it's another word that gets bandied about. But the way I like to think about it is that if you're empowered, then you have capacity to make decisions, knowing the consequences or the actions or the results, whatever word we like to use, around those decisions, rather than feeling, again, like you've got no control, that you're just that Japanese windflower. You actually can decide that unlike the Japanese windflower, that you can do things.
Exactly.
I love that. So, Ivana, if people wanted to contact you, if they wanted to work with you, how do they find you?
They can find me on my website, drivana.com.au. I
Perfect.
offer a free first consultation, which is basically a discovery call. So we can actually have a quick chat. So they can see me, they can have a quick chat with me and have some sort of understanding what I do, how I work. Also, I can have a little bit of understanding and I can give them my opinion, where would be the good place to meet me, because I meet people in one-on-one clinic. I do this CBT course and I do the online program. If they are interested in the CBT program, they can contact the clinic where I work, which is called Maxwell Medical Group.
Maxwell Medical Group,
yes,
is it?
And the clinic is based in Braybrook, which is western part of Melbourne near Footscray. They can just ring the clinic, ask about the program, and we have a great admin team who will just send them all the informations, and they can enroll.
Beautiful. And we will put all the notes, all the links in the show notes for this as well. So anybody who is driving, who can't remember, just when you've stopped traffic, you can look in the show notes and they'll all be there. But that sounds amazing. And I think the more options that women have, the more choice, the more freedom, the more autonomy.
Absolutely.
So I'm very happy with that. That sounds great. So 3 things that you would recommend for postmenopausal any menopausal women. So whether you're pre, post, peri, what do you reckon are your 3 big game changers?
So for all women in their 40s and 50s, avoiding the M word. I think it's very important to remember this pause, review, regroup. You don't need to suddenly stop your life, but you need to just maybe slow down and review your life, and then regroup the way how you live your life. The stress management, the good sleep, and the community, the people that we are surrounded with, are very important part of that process of pause, review, and regroup. Because if you are totally sleep deprived, if you are surrounded with people that are constantly triggering your anxiety, it's very hard to do that.
Indeed. I love that. Perfect. Good. Well, Dr. Ivana, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with our community. I very much appreciate it. And lovely ladies, if you're out there, know that you don't have to be a Japanese windflower, that you can develop skills, that you can learn empowerment, and that you can live your best. And I guess that you can live your best, just live your best life. I know that's a boring old Instagram hashtag best life, but that's basically what we're all wanting to do. And the thing is, it doesn't have to be your best life every single day, because we all have bad days. So it's not about every single day has to be perfect, but it's just about having, as good a quality days as you can most of the time.
Absolutely. And even when you have a bad quality days, just to know how to hold them, how to hold your emotions, because you're human. You can't be happy all the time.
Indeed. Absolutely. Yes, exactly. And dispelling that myth, and that we do have bad days, and that's normal.
Thank you, Lucy, for having me. And thank you for all your work that you are doing for women in their 40s and 50s as well.
Oh, you're welcome, Ivana. Thank you. All right, gorgeous people. We will see you next week with another episode of the Real Health and Weight Loss Podcast. Take care, peeps. Bye now. The information shared on the Real Health and Weight Loss Podcast, including show notes and links, provides general information only. It is not a substitute, nor is it intended to provide individualized medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment, nor can it be construed as such. Please consult your doctor for any medical concerns.